Back in early 2020, Lenovo debuted a Chromebook that kind of surprised everybody, and it was a 10th gen Comet Lake device. It was the Flex 5. It was convertible and USI and backlit keyboard and upward firing speakers, and it was $409. And so it, alongside the Duet, just kind of made Lenovo this go-to place for good, affordable Chromebook devices. And so they're kind of coming back this year here in 2021 and repeating the same formula here, at least with this new Flex 5i. It has all the latest specs. It looks a lot like its predecessor, and we have one here in the office to unbox. So let's get to it. Okay, so really iteration is the name of the game with this particular device, because ultimately it seems like that's just the trend in 2021. For better or worse, companies are basically taking what worked in 2020 and just putting this new Tiger Lake 11th gen chipset inside and keeping a lot of the stuff on the outside the same. And from what we can tell from the press materials and stuff for this particular Chromebook, that's exactly what Lenovo has done here, aside from changing the color scheme a little bit and obviously swapping out the internals. We get the same 250 nit screen and USI compatibility and upward firing speakers and backlit keys, aluminum lid with a plastic shell. Yeah, similar charger. Let's honestly, again, it's a Chromebook, so let's not get too much into the weeds of what's in the box and all that kind of stuff, because what you want to see is this device, and what you want to know is, should you buy it or not? And the cool part about these iterative Chromebooks is, I really like that color. It's already fingerprinty though. Like, picked them up right as soon as I pulled it out of the bag. To be fair, we had tacos for lunch, so who knows? Some of that could be on me. I did wash my hands, but yeah, you probably are picking those up maybe on camera already. This one's going to be a fingerprinty Chromebook. The bottom, not so much, because again, bottom is plastic. Top is nice, cool aluminum. Let's crack it open real quick. Let's see here. Keyboard feels quite a bit the same. Trackpad, again, definitely a Mylar surface, but that's what they had in the last one. Again, this looks exactly like the original Flex 5. And so let's look around the outside here first. We've got the same kind of port selection: USB Type-C, USB-A, micro SD, headphone, microphone over on the other side. Ooh, oh no, I thought that was two USB Type-Cs. I was like, wow, they really loaded it up. But USB Type-C, Kensington, volume rocker, power button there on the side. On the bottom, we do have the spot for fans. This is the Core i3. So this model here is, right now it's at Costco, I believe. It's $549. Comes with a Core i3, so 11th gen Core i3. And we've already seen that thing perform in the Asus CX5. It's a monster chip. 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of internal NVMe storage. So internally, this thing is going to be nice and fast. No real concerns there. And again, I'm just kind of giving this thing a glance, and it really does look basically identical to the Flex 5, except for the color. Like the cutouts for the speakers look the same. The keys on top look lighter to me. I don't have the original Flex 5 handy. It may have just been that the base was gray before, so the gray keys didn't stand out as much. Let me stand that up so you can kind of get that. They're just kind of nice looking. I believe they're backlit. We're going to get it powered on here in a second. And again, you've seen this. If you've watched our review of this device, you can reference that. If you haven't, go back and check it out. Search the channel. It's there. Flex 5 Chromebook. It was the same i3 last year, so 10th gen i3. But there's a 464 model last year, so 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. This year, this one is coming in with 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of NVMe storage. So pair that up with this i3, and this thing is going to blow the pants off of that model from last year. But they're also introducing a Pentium 7505 version as well, with only 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage. And while I don't love 64 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM's okay for kind of a mid-range Chromebook, mid to low-end Chromebook. And right now, as we're filming this, that version of this Chromebook has gone on sale for like $269 already. So I mean, crazy prices. I think it's $299 normally. And again, I don't love that storage amount. I really wish 64 was the bottom, but $300 for a Pentium device. I mean, that's impressive, because honestly, the Pentium 7505 is super duper fast. It's getting 30 and 40,000, I think, in octane. So it holds its own as well. So either one of these devices is going to be good, but I think the outside of both of them has this kind of same abyss blue fingerprint magnet looking shell here. But again, we get completely foldable 360 degree hinge and all that kind of good stuff. So give me a second, let me power it on real fast, and we'll run a benchmark on it just to see how quick this i3 is still going. We'll give a quick listen to the speakers as well to see if maybe those have improved. We got some sort of like looks like max audio. I'm not sure what that is, but they've gone and branded their speakers, which, as we know from the past, branding your speakers usually means they're not great. But who knows? Maybe we'll get surprised here. But again, a lot of the Flex 5 stuff from last year going on here. Swap out the processor, same 250 nit screen from what the specs say. Let's power it up and check that out. Okay, getting logged in and set up, it takes a couple minutes. You got to type a few things. One thing I've noticed is it feels like Lenovo cleaned the keyboard up a little bit. The original Flex 5, I didn't hate it. I just didn't love the keyboard on it. And I always gave it a pass because it was an affordable device. This one is still relatively affordable for everything you're getting here. But I feel like they really cleaned the keyboard up. The original one felt a little clacky. Like the keys actually felt like they were kind of wobbly up top. And if you've ever typed on kind of what it feels like a loose keyboard, you get that. But this one just doesn't feel that way, and it's nice and quiet. So really good click, good travel. This is going to be an enjoyable keyboard, I can already tell. And from what I can tell right now, the trackpad is going to be very similar to last year's Flex 5, meaning good. It's got a really good click. It feels very solid. It's just not glass, so it's going to build up oils a little quicker than a glass trackpad would. But overall, the whole thing feels pretty sturdy. Again, kind of just handling it as I was setting it up. The bottom portion, you can see a little bit of wiggle there, but to be an all plastic bottom, that's not too bad. When you close up the whole thing, because the top's aluminum, it really feels nice and rigid. And so ultimately, like, all the lines just kind of line up really nicely, so you're not running into a lot of that kind of jagged, cheap Chromebook feel. Ultimately, when you pick it up like this, it feels kind of premium. It feels really nice in the hand. So again, on the desk, you're not getting a ton of flex. There's a little bit there, you can probably see on camera. A bit. It's a plastic chassis. Up top here, it's nice and firm, but right in here, there's a little bit of give. You don't feel that really at all, so far I can tell, when you are typing. And so let me get the brightness adjusted so we don't blow down the shot or blow out the shot. 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. Okay. So we're working with a 13.3 inch diagonal display here, 16 by 9, full HD, 1080p at 250 nits. What's interesting is when I pulled it out of the box and turned it on and started logging in just a few minutes ago, for a second I thought, like, did they replace the panel? Maybe they put a 300 nit panel in here. I looked it up. It is not. I haven't tested it yet. I'm going to trust their marketing materials that it's 250 nits, but it felt a little bit brighter. I'm not really sure what that means. Again, usually under our studio lighting, I can kind of tell. I can just feel when a display isn't quite bright enough. And this one just didn't feel that way for some reason. But my guess is it's 250 nits, but it feels like it's going to be a decent 250 nits, meaning you're not going to be able to take it outside and use it very often. And if you're by a window, you may run into situations where it feels like it needs just a little bit more brightness and it's not going to have it to give it to you. But otherwise, screen looks nice. Viewing angles look really good. The backlighting on the keys. Let's see if I can crank that up a little bit. Has a nice glow. There's not a ton of bleed. If you get down low, you can see some of the bleed in the keys, but it looks really nice, especially the color of the keys here with this chassis. The whole thing looks really good. So keyboard and trackpad feel really good. Let's run some benchmarks on this thing though, because I'm curious to see. There's been a couple updates to Chrome OS since the Asus CX5 came out. And honestly, I've not run any kind of benchmarks at all, especially Octane on the Core i3, this 11th gen Core i3. So I'm going to do that right now. And I'm expecting to get, I want to say it was in the 50,000s or something like that. So other notable things here. Like I said, upward firing speakers. We're going to test those in a second. I haven't heard anything out of them yet. But my guess is they're going to be kind of thin, kind of tinny, but you'll probably get nice stereo separation because, again, they're upward firing. They're not being blocked by the table, and they're clearly on each side of the device. So you should get decent stereo separation once we fire those things up. And you also get the little nice swipe camera close thing up here, which is always welcome. I love that. I like this. I love having a fingerprint scanner on Chromebooks too. Like those two things just add to it. At this price point, it doesn't surprise me that you don't get it. But again, USI stylus input on this thing. So it's got a bunch of features. And holy moly, I'm not in guess mode either. So there could be extensions bringing this down or whatever. But I mean, you're approaching 60,000 on Octane. We can run some other benchmarks and all that kind of stuff if we wanted to, but ultimately that's telling me that this thing is absolutely cooking. That's no surprise. These Tiger Lake chips have been really pretty awesome in Chromebooks as we've seen them. And what's funny is, apart from the GPU difference in the Core i3 versus the Core i5, the only thing that I would see saying you need to go get a Core i5 for is that one thing, a GPU. So you get the old HD Iris graphics in the Core i3. You get the new Xe graphics from Intel, which is, it's not a discrete GPU, but it's a really good integrated GPU. Doesn't really help right now, but when Borealis and gaming on Chromebooks comes along, it is going to make a difference. And so the last thing I want to do is fire up one of our YouTube videos real quick and listen to what the audio sounds like from these things. So give me just a second and let me get in. We'll watch this last video we did on cursive. All right, let me pull over to the opening sequence. We'll get a little bit of vocal audio here. Let's see what this sounds like. Cursive. And I've spent a few days with it as well. And while I think there's a huge potential, there's a decent amount of low end here. There's some downsides. It's not amazing right now as well. And so we want to talk about all of them. This is an improvement for sure. I can actually kind of hear the bass line, which a lot of speakers, a lot of Chromebook speakers, I just don't hear that. Like that low bass line that came in there, I just generally don't pick that up when I listen to a set of speakers. So it feels like, again, we've got the Flex 5 somewhere. I'm not really sure where we've put it, the old Flex 5. I really want to compare those speakers to these speakers. The keyboard too, I want to see the difference in the two. But man, they're not crazy loud. They're just a nice volume. But they sound pretty good. It's like pretty nice and round. So let's just hop in and take a look at this. And ultimately on Chromebooks like this, the main thing is you want spoken word to sound good, because the idea is I'm going to be on a video call or whatever, and I want to make sure spoken and vocal words come out. Like music is one thing. Honestly, you're probably not going to watch movies with the built-in speakers or sit and listen and jam to music a lot. But you're going to probably take a lot of calls. You're going to do video calls and all that kind of stuff. And so they need to sound good for that. They need to be tuned for that. And it definitely sounds like these are going to be that way. So good on them. This looks like the same set of speakers that was in the Flex 5. And again, I may get that device out. It's been a long time since I messed with it and realized that maybe I was too harsh on those speakers or something. I don't know. But ultimately, good speakers, really nice feeling keyboard. Oops, sorry, unpause that. Serviceable mouse, good looking design, great colorway. Solid screen, privacy shade, USI pen input, crazy fast processor, 8 gigs of RAM. This is adding up to be a really awesome Chromebook, and that's kind of what the Flex 5 did last year. I mean, ultimately, it was this device that was always kind of affordable, would go on sale from time to time, but just it was this easy to recommend, mid-range, do all the things you need it to do Chromebook, and kind of feels like that's exactly the lane they've gone into this year with the Flex 5i. And I think it's a good move. Obviously, we're going to spend some time with this. We'll do a review, talk about what it's like to actually use it in real world use. We got a ton of reviews like that coming up, a ton of equipment in the office right now. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, but also go down there and make sure and subscribe so that you can see future videos like the review of this and review of all sorts of other things. And while you're down there, hit that notification bell as well if you'd like to be alerted when we make future videos just like this one. Till next time, we'll see you.